My fiancée told her marketing friends I was just a pathetic wallet she could control, so I investigated it, and what I discovered about her real game plan shocked everyone. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. 3 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Damon Callahan, 32, owner of Callahan Construction, a company I'd built from nothing into a $2.5 million operation. My fiancée Tiffany Lawson was everything I thought I wanted: marketing director at a prestigious firm, connections throughout the city's social elite. The kind of woman who looked perfect in the country club photos her mother Kathleen constantly posted on social media. We'd been together 18 months, engaged for 6. I was paying for everything: the $15,000 engagement ring, the $60,000 wedding venue, the designer dress that cost more than my truck. But I didn't care. I was in love, or so I thought. Tiffany had this way of making me feel like I was finally worthy of the life I'd worked so hard to build. The warning signs were there. Drake Harmon, my best friend since high school and business confidant, kept asking pointed questions about our relationship. "She ever ask about your work, man? Like, actually interested in what you do?" Miguel Santos, my foreman who'd become like a brother over 8 years, was more direct: "Boss, she treats you different when her friends are around." You notice that? I dismissed their concerns. They didn't understand Tiffany's world, the pressure she was under to maintain appearances in her high-powered marketing career. When she corrected my grammar at dinner parties or steered conversations away from construction topics, I told myself she was helping me fit in with her sophisticated circle. The unraveling started at Caroline Lawson's birthday party 3 months ago. Tiffany's younger sister was celebrating her promotion at a tech startup, and the guest list was pure Silicon Valley and marketing elite. I wore my best suit, the one Tiffany had picked out, and tried to blend in with conversations about brand strategies and market disruption. I'd gone to the kitchen to get drinks when I overheard Tiffany talking to her coworkers in the living room. The conversation stopped me cold, honestly. "Ashley, he's perfect for what I need right now." Tiffany's voice carried clearly through the thin walls. "Damon's got money but zero sophistication. He actually thinks I'm going to stay married to a contractor long-term." Ashley Monroe, one of her marketing teammates, laughed. "The blue-collar thing is kind of hot though, right? Please, it's a phase. I need the financial stability while I build my personal brand. Then I'll upgrade to someone with actual social capital. My dad already has his eye on some corporate lawyer types who'd be perfect for my 5-year plan." My hands started shaking, nearly dropping the wine glasses, but it got worse. "The best part is how easy he is to control," Tiffany continued. "Flash a smile. Let him think he's the big provider, and he'll pay for anything. Did I tell you he's covering the entire wedding cost? $120,000 of his money for a party that's basically networking for my career." Caroline's voice joined in. "Mom loves that part. She keeps saying you found the perfect transition guy, successful enough to fund your lifestyle upgrade, but not connected enough to limit your options later." I stood frozen in that kitchen, understanding with perfect clarity that I wasn't a fiancé, I was an investment, a pathetic wallet she could control. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Tiffany slept peacefully beside me, already planning her next career move probably. Everything made sense now: why she never asked about my business beyond the money it generated, why she always positioned herself as the brains and me as just the provider at social gatherings, why her family was so eager to fast-track our wedding despite barely knowing me. The next morning, after Tiffany left for work, I called Drake. "I need to know everything about her," I told him, my voice still shaky from what I'd discovered: her real plans, her finances, what she's actually been telling people about me. Drake didn't even hesitate. "I've been waiting for this call, brother. Miguel and I have been worried about you for months. What do you need?" My first mistake was thinking I could handle this like any other business problem: direct confrontation with evidence. I set up a meeting with Joe Lawson, Tiffany's father, and the corporate lawyer who'd been so welcoming when I'd asked for her hand in marriage. "Joe, I need to discuss some concerns about Tiffany's intentions regarding our marriage," I said in his downtown office, trying to sound professional. His reaction was immediate and dismissive. "Damon, cold feet are normal before a wedding. Tiffany loves you. She's told us repeatedly how excited she is to start building a life together." I overheard her telling her friends I'm just a financial placeholder, son. Joe interrupted, his lawyer persona taking over. "Wedding stress makes people say things they don't mean. Tiffany's career requires networking conversations that might sound calculating to outsiders, but that's just how business works in her field." He leaned forward, paternal but firm. "Don't let pre-wedding anxiety destroy a good thing. Tiffany chose you over plenty of other options. That should tell you something about her genuine feelings." I left that meeting feeling dismissed and foolish, but more determined. The system, her family, her social circle was designed to protect her. I needed real evidence. Over the next 2 months, I embarked on the most methodical investigation of my life. What I discovered was a carefully orchestrated deception that went far deeper than I'd imagined. Drake, who ran the business side of our operation, started by analyzing our financial records. "Look at this pattern," he showed me on his laptop a week after my failed conversation with Joe. "Every major expense request from Tiffany coincides with her work events. The engagement ring purchase was 2 days before her company's annual networking gala. The wedding venue deposit was the same week as that marketing conference where she was presenting." Miguel, meanwhile, had been quietly documenting Tiffany's behavior during her visits to our job sites. "Boss, I started writing this stuff down after that conversation we had. She never asks about the work. Never. Yesterday she walked through a $500,000 custom home renovation and only asked if the client might be useful for her networking events." But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Kate Delaney, the new project manager I'd hired 6 weeks earlier, approached me after a client meeting with information that changed everything. "Damon, I need to tell you something," Kate said, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "I know Tiffany from college. We were sorority sisters at State. She had a reputation for dating guys specifically for what they could provide: money, connections, social status. She called it strategic relationship building." Kate hesitated, then continued. "After college, she dated a tech entrepreneur for 2 years. Same pattern: he funded her lifestyle while she built her career. Then she left him the week after her promotion came through. Before that, it was a banker who paid for her BA applications and interview wardrobe. My stomach dropped. Are you saying I'm part of a pattern? I'm saying Tiffany Lawson has never had a relationship that wasn't transactional. When I saw your engagement announcement online, I recognized the playbook immediately. That night, I started documenting everything. Every conversation, every expense, every interaction that showed her real motivations. Drake set up a secure digital folder where we compiled evidence. Miguel began recording instances of her dismissive behavior toward our work and employees. Kate provided historical context about Tiffany's previous relationships. But I made a crucial error in judgment. Confident in what we'd discovered, I arranged to meet with Ashley Monroe, the coworker who's been present during that revealing conversation at Carolina's party. My strategy was to get her to confirm what Tiffany had said, and perhaps reveal additional details about her plans. Ashley agreed to meet for coffee, seeming nervous but willing to talk. I explained what I'd overheard and asked her to verify the conversation. Oh God, Damon, yes, she said those things. Ashley confirmed, looking genuinely uncomfortable. I've been feeling terrible about it ever since. Tiffany talks about you like you're a business strategy, not a relationship. She even has timelines written out for when she plans to transition away from you. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text messages from Tiffany, discussing her 5-year relationship plan and timeline for upgrading to a more professionally advantageous partner. I felt vindicated. Finally, I had concrete evidence from someone in Tiffany's inner circle. But when I tried to get Ashley to provide a formal statement or speak to other mutual acquaintances, everything fell apart. I can't do that, Ashley said suddenly, putting her phone away. Tiffany's my team lead. If she finds out I talked to you, I could lose my job. Those screenshots, I shouldn't have shown them to you. Within 2 days, Ashley had blocked my number and email. Worse, when I mentioned our conversation to Drake, he discovered something alarming. Damon, Ashley went straight to Tiffany after your coffee meeting, Drake told me grimly. I have a contact at their marketing firm. Ashley told Tiffany everything about your investigation, about the evidence we're gathering, about Kate's historical information. The implications hit me immediately. Tiffany now knew I was investigating her. She'd have time to cover her tracks, manipulate the narrative, and potentially turn the entire situation against me. Sure enough, that evening Tiffany came home with a different energy entirely. Damon, honey, Ashley told me you've been asking strange questions about our relationship, she said, her voice perfectly calibrated between concern and hurt. She's worried you might be having some kind of breakdown. All this stress about the wedding. Maybe you should talk to someone? She was already reframing my investigation as evidence of my instability. I realized she was much smarter and more strategic than I'd given her credit for. With my cover blown, I had to get more sophisticated. Kate Delaney became my primary ally, providing insights into Tiffany's psychology and methods that I never would have recognized. She's going to try to isolate you now, Kate warned during one of our covert meetings at a coffee shop across town. Make you doubt your own perceptions. Turn your friends against you by claiming you're being paranoid or controlling. Kate was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Tiffany launched a subtle campaign to undermine my credibility. She started making concerned comments to my brother Tony about my paranoid behavior and my obsession with conspiracy theories about her career. When Tony called to check on me, his tone was worried. Damon, Tiffany's really concerned about you, man. She says you've been accusing her of all kinds of crazy stuff. Maybe you should take a step back from the wedding stress. Even Miguel noticed the change in dynamic when Tiffany visited our job sites. Boss, she's being extra sweet to everyone now, asking about their families and the work. It's like she's trying to win people over. But Kate had prepared me for this. It's called charm offensive, she explained. When Tiffany feels threatened, she becomes the perfect girlfriend temporarily. She'll be more affectionate, more interested in your work, more supportive. It's designed to make you question whether you imagine the whole thing. True to Kate's prediction, Tiffany suddenly became everything I'd wanted her to be. She started asking detailed questions about our current projects, brought lunch to the job sites, even suggested we have Drake and Miguel over for dinner to properly thank them for all their hard work. For a brief moment, I wondered if I had misunderstood everything. Maybe the conversation at Caroline's party was just stress talking. Maybe Ashley had exaggerated the text messages, but Kate kept me focused. This is exactly what she did with the tech entrepreneur. 6 months of perfect girlfriend behavior while she prepared her exit strategy. Don't let her manipulate you into backing down. My brother Tony had always been my closest family member. When our parents died in a car accident 8 years ago, Tony helped me through the grief and supported my decision to expand the construction business. I trusted his judgment completely, which made what happened next so devastating. Convinced that Tony would see through Tiffany's manipulation if I presented him with all the evidence, I arranged a family dinner where I planned to lay out everything I'd discovered. Tony, I need you to understand what's really happening here, I began after Tiffany excused herself to take a work call. She's been using me. I have documentation, witnesses, a clear pattern of behavior, but Tony cut me off. Damon, stop, just stop. I've been watching this whole thing develop, and I'm worried about you. What do you mean? Tiffany came to me last week. She's terrified that you're becoming obsessed with these conspiracy theories about her. She showed me some of the accusations you've been making, the people you've been interrogating about her past. My heart sank. She'd gotten to him first. Tony continued, his voice gentle but firm. She loves you, man. She's planning a life with you, but she's scared that wedding stress is making you paranoid. The things you're claiming that she's using you for money, that she has some master plan to leave you, it sounds like the stress talking. I have evidence of what? That she's ambitious about her career, that she networks professionally, that she had relationships before you? Tony shook his head. Damon, you built a successful business by being practical and level-headed. This isn't you. When Tiffany returned to the room, she played her part perfectly. Concerned, supportive, slightly hurt but understanding. I just want him to be happy, she told Tony, her eyes glistening with perfectly timed tears. The wedding planning has been so stressful, and I know he feels pressure to provide for me. Maybe we should postpone until he's feeling more like himself. Tony nodded sympathetically. That might be wise. Give yourselves time to reconnect. Without all this wedding pressure, I sat there watching my own brother ally with my manipulator, realizing how thoroughly she's outmaneuvered me. Not only had she turned Tony against me, but she'd positioned herself as the rational, caring fiancé worried about her partner's mental health. Worse, her suggestion to postpone the wedding made her look selfless while buying her more time to solidify her narrative and plan her next moves. Investigation Phase 3 Professional validation with my personal support network compromised. I realized I needed professional credibility to combat Tiffany's campaign. Kate suggested bringing in outside expertise. My cousin Rachel is a private investigator who specializes in financial fraud and relationship scams. Kate told me she's worked cases where people use romantic relationships to facilitate theft, identity fraud, or long-term financial abuse. Rachel Chin turned out to be exactly what I needed, a professional who could look at the situation objectively and provide expert analysis of the behavioral patterns I'd documented. After reviewing all our evidence, Rachel's assessment was chilling. This is textbook strategic relationship fraud, she told me during our first meeting. Tiffany exhibits classic predatory relationship patterns: love bombing during the courtship phase, financial extraction disguised as shared planning, social isolation techniques, and gaslighting when challenged. Rachel agreed to conduct a formal investigation, which revealed disturbing details I never could have uncovered alone. I've traced Tiffany's relationship history back 10 years, Rachel reported 2 weeks later. 4 long-term relationships, each lasting 18 to 36 months. In every case, she extracted significant financial resources: tuition payments, business investments, luxury purchases, then left within 6 months of achieving a career milestone. The tech entrepreneur Kate had mentioned wasn't the only one. Rachel had documentation of a pattern spanning nearly a decade. The banker paid for her BA and supported her through graduate school. She left him 2 months after landing her first marketing job. The tech entrepreneur funded her professional development and networking expenses for 2 years. She left him 3 weeks after her promotion to senior manager. There was also a real estate developer who financed her luxury lifestyle while she built her personal brand. Rachel showed me financial records, social media patterns, and even testimonials from 2 of the previous victims who'd agreed to speak with her. Every relationship follows the same timeline, Rachel continued. 18 months to build financial dependence, 6 to 12 months of extraction phase, then exit strategy execution. You're currently at month 18 of the relationship, month 6 of engagement. According to her historical pattern, she's planning to leave you within the next 12 months. But Rachel had discovered something even more disturbing. Tiffany's been building a legal case against you, she revealed, showing me documents she'd obtained through professional channels. She's been documenting your paranoid and controlling behavior, your obsession with investigating her, and your unstable mental state. I believe she's preparing to claim emotional abuse and demand financial compensation for her pain and suffering. The scope of her manipulation was breathtaking. Not only was she planning to leave me, but she was setting up a scenario where I'd be the villain and she'd be the victim deserving of financial restitution. Armed with Rachel's professional analysis, I decided to approach the police about potential fraud charges. Rachel had helped me document clear patterns of financial deception and relationship fraud that might constitute criminal behavior. Detective Maria Santos at the Fraud Division listened politely to my presentation, reviewed Rachel's report, and examined the evidence of Tiffany's systematic approach to relationship exploitation. Mr. Callahan, I understand your frustration, and this private investigator has done thorough work, Detective Santos said after reviewing everything, but I need to explain why this doesn't constitute criminal fraud under current law. The explanation was devastating. Relationship fraud is extremely difficult to prosecute unless there's evidence of identity theft, forged documents, or explicit deception about legal status, she continued. Dating someone for financial benefit, even systematically, isn't illegal. Lying about your feelings or intentions in a relationship, all morally reprehensible, doesn't meet the threshold for criminal fraud. She handed back my evidence folder. My advice is to protect yourself financially and legally, but don't expect the criminal justice system to address what's essentially a civil relationship matter. I left the police station feeling defeated and naive. The legal system that I'd hoped would validate my situation instead dismissed it as a private relationship dispute, but worse was yet to come. That evening, Tiffany confronted me with a concerned expression and a folder of her own. Damon, Detective Santos called me today, she said, her voice perfectly calibrated between hurt and worry. She said you filed a police report claiming I'm running some kind of fraud scheme against you. My blood ran cold. The detective had contacted Tiffany to get her side of the story. Not realizing it would compromise my investigation entirely, she asked me about our relationship, our financial arrangements, whether I felt safe living with you. Tiffany continued, Damon, you're scaring people. You're scaring me. She opened her folder, revealing printed emails, text screenshots, and what appeared to be a journal. I've been documenting your behavior because I'm genuinely worried about your mental health, she said, showing me pages of her handwriting describing my paranoid episodes and obsessive investigation behavior. Tony suggested I start keeping records in case you need professional help. Now you're involving the police with conspiracy theories about me? This has gone too far. I realized with horrible clarity that my attempt to get institutional validation had backfired completely. Not only had the police rejected my case, but they'd given Tiffany evidence of my investigation, an opportunity to strengthen her counter-narrative. She was building a legal case portraying me as an unstable, paranoid partner who was harassing her with false accusations. 3 weeks later, everything came to a head in the worst possible way. Tiffany had been planning what she called a relationship intervention, with both our families present. She had convinced Tony, her parents, and even Drake and Miguel to attend a dinner, where we could work through our communication issues with professional mediation. She'd hired Dr. Emily Richardson, a relationship counselor, to facilitate the discussion. I agreed to attend, hoping that professional mediation might create space for honest conversation about our relationship problems. I walked into that intervention completely unprepared for what Tiffany had orchestrated. Thank you all for coming to support Damon and me during this difficult time, Tiffany began, positioning herself as the concerned partner, seeking help for our relationship. I've asked Dr. Richardson to help us address some behavioral patterns that have been affecting our engagement. Dr. Richardson nodded professionally. Tiffany has shared some concerning information about escalating paranoid behavior and obsessive investigation tactics that are creating an unsafe environment in your relationship. My heart started pounding as I realized this wasn't mediation, it was an ambush. Tiffany had prepared a presentation detailing my concerning behavior patterns, complete with documentation of my investigation activities, the police report I'd filed, and testimonials from people I'd questioned about her past. Damon has been hiring private investigators to follow me, interrogating my coworkers about my career plans, and filing false police reports claiming I'm running fraud schemes, she told the room, her voice breaking with perfectly timed emotion. I'm scared that his paranoia is escalating into something dangerous. Joe Lawson spoke first. Son, we've been concerned about this behavior for weeks. Tiffany's mother has been losing sleep, worried about her safety. Tony nodded grimly. Damon, you need help, man. This obsession with conspiracy theories isn't healthy. Even Drake looked uncertain. Boss, maybe you should hear what they're saying. This whole investigation thing has gotten pretty intense. Dr. Richardson turned to me with professional concern. Damon, paranoid ideation and obsessive behavior patterns can indicate serious underlying mental health issues. Have you considered that your perceptions of Tiffany's motivations might be distorted by anxiety or stress? I sat there surrounded by everyone I trusted, being told that my accurate understanding of reality was actually evidence of mental illness. Tiffany had turned my investigation into proof of my instability and positioned herself as the victim of my paranoid behavior. The intervention concluded with everyone agreeing that I needed professional help and that Tiffany deserved space to feel safe while I worked on my issues. I walked out of that room feeling completely defeated, realizing that Tiffany hadn't just outmaneuvered me, she'd weaponized my own investigation against me and convinced everyone that my attempts to protect myself were evidence of dangerous mental illness. But that intervention, devastating as it was, taught me something crucial about Tiffany's strategy. She's shown me exactly how she operated: charm, manipulation, narrative control, and turning people's own actions against them. Over the next month, I stopped fighting her directly and instead focused on what Rachel had taught me about building unassailable evidence and what Kate had shown me about Tiffany's psychological patterns. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: Matt Jennings, my former business partner who'd left Callahan Construction 2 years earlier to start his own firm. Matt called me out of the blue with information that changed everything. Damon, I heard through the grapevine that you're having relationship troubles. Matt said during our coffee meeting. I wasn't sure if I should get involved, but there's something you need to know about Tiffany. My pulse quickened. What kind of something? She approached me 6 months ago about potentially partnering with my firm on some upcoming commercial projects. Matt explained. She said she was concerned about your company's financial stability and wanted to discuss alternative business arrangements that might be more secure for her future. I felt the blood drain from my face. Alternative arrangements? She implied that your mental health was affecting your business judgment and suggested that I might be a more stable long-term partner for her professionally and potentially personally. Matt continued. She had detailed information about your company's financials, client lists, and projected earnings. Information she could only have gotten from someone with access to your business records. Matt handed me a folder. I kept notes from our conversations because something felt off about the whole thing. She was essentially proposing that I help her transition away from you while maintaining access to the financial benefits of your relationship. Inside the folder were Matt's detailed notes from 3 separate meetings with Tiffany, including her specific timeline for leaving me, her assessment of my business value, and her request for Matt to provide her with an exit strategy that maximizes financial benefit while minimizing legal exposure. But the most damning evidence was a recording Matt had made during their final meeting. I always record business conversations for legal protection, Matt explained as he played the audio file on his phone. Tiffany's voice came through clearly. The intervention next week should establish the mental health narrative. Once everyone believes Damon is unstable, I can position the relationship termination as necessary for my safety. Dr. Richardson is already prepared to recommend that I distance myself from him for psychological protection. My hands were shaking as I listened to her explain her complete strategy. The beauty of this approach is that Damon's own investigation behavior becomes evidence of his paranoia. She continued on the recording. Every attempt he makes to prove I'm manipulating him just reinforces the narrative that he's delusional. It's perfect psychological warfare. She then outlined her financial expectations. I'm estimating I can claim emotional damages worth at least $200,000. Plus I'll need transition support while I rebuild my life after this traumatic relationship. If Damon wants to avoid a public legal battle that could damage his business reputation, he'll settle quietly. Matt had documented everything: her timeline, her manipulation strategy, her financial goals, and her complete lack of genuine emotion about ending our relationship. Why are you giving me this? I asked Matt, still processing the magnitude of what I'd just heard. Because what she proposed wasn't just wrong, it was evil, Matt said simply. She was asking me to help her systematically destroy someone I've known and respected for 8 years. No amount of business opportunity is worth that. For the first time in months, I had evidence that couldn't be dismissed, discredited, or turned against me. Tiffany had revealed her complete strategy to someone she thought would be her ally, not realizing she was being recorded by a man with stronger ethical standards than she'd calculated. With Matt's evidence, I finally had what Rachel called smoking gun documentation. But I'd learned from all my previous failures that how I presented this evidence would determine whether it destroyed Tiffany's credibility or became another example of my obsessive behavior. Kate helped me devise a strategy that used Tiffany's own tactics against her. She's planning to leave you after the intervention established the mental health narrative, Kate analyzed. But she doesn't know you have the recording yet. You can control the timing and context of the revelation. We decided to call a family meeting ostensibly for me to acknowledge my behavioral problems and announce my intention to seek professional help. Tiffany would attend expecting another victory in her manipulation campaign. Rachel arranged for a court reporter to be present, officially to document my admission of unstable behavior, for what Tiffany believed would be legal proceedings in her favor. The meeting included Tony, Joe and Kathleen Lawson, Drake, Miguel, Kate, and Dr. Richardson, whom Tiffany had invited to observe my progress toward acknowledging my psychological issues. I've asked everyone here because I need to address the concerns about my behavior over the past few months. I began, following the script Kate and I had prepared. Tiffany smiled slightly, thinking I was about to validate her entire narrative. I want to acknowledge that my investigation into Tiffany's background and intentions was obsessive and probably appeared paranoid to people who care about both of us. I continued. Tony nodded approvingly. Joe Lawson looked satisfied. Dr. Richardson took notes about my insight into problematic behavior patterns. However, before I discuss my plans for addressing these issues, I think everyone should understand what prompted this investigation, I said, gesturing to Kate, who started playing Matt's recording. The room fell silent as Tiffany's voice filled the space, calmly explaining her manipulation strategy, her timeline for leaving me, her assessment of my business value, and her plans to extract maximum financial benefit from our relationship's end. I watched the color drain from Tiffany's face as her own words described me as a pathetic wallet and outlined her psychological warfare tactics. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Joe Lawson spoke first. His voice barely controlled Tiffany. "What the hell is this? That's taken out of context," Tiffany said quickly, but her usual composure was cracking. "Matt was pressuring me to there's no context that makes this acceptable." Tony interrupted, looking at Tiffany with disgust. "You've been playing all of us." Dr. Richardson reviewed her notes with obvious concern. "Ms. Lawson, this recording describes deliberate psychological manipulation and fraud. This isn't relationship stress, this is predatory behavior." But I wasn't finished. Rachel had prepared additional evidence that painted the complete picture. "This isn't the first time," I said, handing out the documentation Rachel had compiled. "Tiffany has systematically exploited 4 previous long-term relationships using identical tactics. She's operated this scheme for nearly 10 years. The room erupted as people processed the magnitude of what they were learning. Kathleen Lawson was the most shocking responder. "We knew," she said quietly, tears starting to fall. "Joe and I knew about the pattern. We thought Damon might be different, that maybe she'd finally found someone she actually cared about." Joe's face was ashen. "Tiffany came to us 6 months ago, asking for legal advice about protecting herself financially if the relationship ended. She said Damon was becoming unstable, and she needed to secure her future. We helped her build the documentation strategy. The betrayal was complete. Even her own parents had been complicit in her scheme, hoping I might be the relationship that finally changed her pattern." "Get out," Tony told Tiffany, his voice shaking with rage. "Get out of here right now." As Tiffany gathered her things, she made one final attempt at manipulation. "None of you understand the pressure I'm under in my career," she said, tears finally genuine as her world collapsed. "I needed security, I needed stability, I was going to make this work eventually." "You were going to make what work?" Drake asked harshly. "Your lies? Your theft? Your psychological torture?" Tiffany looked around the room at faces that had gone from supportive to disgusted in the space of one recording. "I loved him," she said desperately. "In my own way, I did love him." "No," Kate said firmly, speaking for the first time during the confrontation. "You loved what he could provide. There's a difference, and everyone in this room can see it now." The aftermath unfolded exactly as Rachel had predicted it would once the truth came out. Within a week, Tiffany's manipulation network collapsed completely. Her parents cut off financial support and demanded she return money they'd provided for wedding expenses. Her sister Caroline, who had been complicit in many of the scheme's details, publicly distanced herself from Tiffany's behavior. At Tiffany's marketing firm, Ashley Monroe, who had felt guilty about her initial cooperation with Tiffany's manipulation, came forward with additional evidence of Tiffany's professional misconduct. The company launched an internal ethics investigation that resulted in Tiffany's termination for misusing company resources for personal relationship manipulation. Most satisfying was watching the community response. The people who dismissed my concerns as paranoia were now apologizing and offering support. Tony spent weeks making amends for doubting my judgment. Even Dr. Richardson provided a formal letter, correcting her initial assessment and acknowledging that my behavior had been appropriate response to genuine psychological manipulation. But the real justice was simpler than any legal proceeding could have provided. The truth was finally visible, and everyone who'd been manipulated by Tiffany could see her actions clearly. Miguel summed it up perfectly during a job site conversation. "Boss, she played herself. All that manipulation, all those lies, and in the end, she recorded her own confession because she got greedy." 6 months later, Callahan Construction has grown into a $4 million operation. The stress and intensity of uncovering Tiffany's manipulation actually strengthened my relationships with Drake, Miguel, and Tony. We work together now with complete trust and transparency. Kate Delaney became much more than a project manager. She became my partner in business and eventually in life. Our relationship grew naturally from mutual respect and shared values, rather than manipulation and financial calculation. The contrast couldn't be more obvious. Kate asks detailed questions about every project because she's genuinely interested in the work. She contributes her expertise to help the business grow, rather than extracting resources for her personal benefit. When we talk about the future, we plan together instead of her planning around me. Matt Jennings and I rebuilt our professional relationship, and his decision to record those conversations with Tiffany taught me something important about integrity. Sometimes protecting people from predators requires difficult choices and personal risk. Rachel Chen has become a friend and occasionally consults on cases where her investigative expertise helps protect other people from relationship fraud. She says Tiffany's case was one of the most systematic examples of romantic manipulation she's ever documented. As for Tiffany, last I heard she'd moved to another city and was working for a smaller marketing firm. Her reputation in our professional community is permanently damaged. And the recording of her confession has made it impossible for her to claim victim status in future relationships. The most important lesson I learned wasn't about investigation techniques or evidence gathering, it was about trusting my instincts and the people who genuinely care about my well-being. Drake, Miguel, and Kate were right about Tiffany from the beginning. I should have listened to their concerns instead of dismissing them as misunderstanding her sophistication. Today, I'm building something real with someone who sees me as a partner, not a resource. Kate and I are planning a future based on shared goals and genuine affection, rather than financial extraction and social climbing. The business continues to thrive because I'm no longer distracted by someone actively undermining my success while pretending to support it. Our team works with complete honesty and mutual respect, qualities that were impossible to maintain while living with someone who viewed every interaction as an opportunity for manipulation. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't overheard that conversation at Carolina's party. Would Tiffany have succeeded in her timeline? Would I have spent years funding her lifestyle while she prepared to leave me for someone with more social capital? But I'm grateful the truth came out when it did. Every month I stayed with Tiffany was another month of my life stolen by someone who never saw me as anything more than a pathetic wallet she could control. Now I wake up next to someone who asks about my dreams, not just my bank account. Someone who celebrates my successes instead of calculating how to exploit them. Someone who builds our future together instead of planning her exit strategy. That's the difference between love and manipulation. One creates something lasting and beautiful, the other just takes until there's nothing left to steal. A lot of people have asked what happened to Tiffany after everything came out, so I wanted to provide an update. She tried to rebuild her reputation in the new city. But the recording of her confession has a way of following her. 2 different men have contacted me through mutual connections after discovering they were dating someone matching her description and behavioral patterns. Both ended their relationships immediately after hearing the audio file. Her parents, Joe and Kathleen Lawson, actually reached out to apologize 6 months ago. They admitted they'd enabled her behavior for years, hoping she'd eventually mature out of her manipulative patterns. They're both in therapy now, trying to understand how they contributed to creating someone capable of such systematic deception. Caroline, Tiffany's sister, has completely cut contact with her. She said the revelation about Tiffany's manipulation opened her eyes to years of similar but smaller-scale deceptions within their family. Caroline is rebuilding relationships with people Tiffany had convinced her to distance herself from. The most surprising update came from Ashley Monroe, Tiffany's former coworker. Ashley left the marketing firm and started her own consulting business. She reached out to thank me for exposing Tiffany's behavior, saying it helped her recognize similar manipulation tactics from other colleagues. She's become an advocate for workplace psychological safety and has helped several other people identify and escape manipulative professional relationships. As for me and Kate, we got married last month, small ceremony, just family and close friends, everything paid for together from our combined savings. No manipulation, no hidden agendas, just 2 people who chose each other for all the right reasons. Drake was my best man, Miguel catered the reception with his wife's restaurant, Tony gave a speech about how Kate helped me become the person I was always meant to be. Even Matt Jennings attended, and we toasted his courage in recording those conversations with Tiffany. During the reception, Kate pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. You know what I love most about our story? We chose each other. There was no scheme. No timeline, no strategy, just 2 people who decided to build something beautiful together. That's what real love looks like. It doesn't need manipulation to survive, and it doesn't require anyone to be a pathetic wallet for someone else's ambitions. The construction business is booming. My relationships with family and friends are stronger than ever, and I wake up every day next to someone who sees my success as our success, not her opportunity. Sometimes the best revenge against a manipulator isn't destroying them, it's building something so genuine and beautiful that their artificial world looks pathetic by comparison. And that's exactly what Kate and I have done. Thanks for watching. Get subscribed to check out more stories on my channel.